Segment 2, Gold and Black Live, and welcoming in Evan Boudreaux, who needs no introduction to Purdue basketball fans and Purdue fans in general. Brian Neubert joins me. And Evan, well, first, welcome to the show. You're up at your home in Lake Forest, and so glad to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk some basketball and some other stuff too.
Yeah, well, I want to do a little, and this is good business because it's important business. The Purdue Center for Cancer Research tomorrow, the Purdue Virtual 5K. Now, we weren't able to have ours in the spring, and we've had, I think, well over 400 or 500 people sign up already. Still taking signups for tomorrow's Virtual 5K. Tell us not only about that, but also your role. You've been on the board at the center and the director's advisory board. Something very near and dear to your heart.
Yeah. Well, first the 5K. I'd encourage anyone, even if you go out and walk it, just get some friends together. All the money is going to go towards a great cause, obviously for the Purdue Center. So I would definitely encourage you. I already ran it. I had a lot of fun. Took some pictures with the t-shirts we got and everything. So yeah, highly recommend everybody participating in that and then sending pictures in so we can share those and everything. I was lucky enough to be asked to be on the advancement board last year, and one of the main roles for me is to be able to spread awareness and bring people together to support the cause and the great work that the research center does, because cancer is obviously something that's affected my life and has affected so many others around me that for me it's a really important thing in my life for me to do. So I love being a part of it. I love getting people to interested in the center and advancing their goals. So definitely sign up for the 5K. I think it's a fun way to get out and be active, and hopefully the weather's nice where everyone is and can get out and do it.
Well, and before Brian asks the question, sub 20 minute then was your time, I'm sure.
No, I ran it with some other people. It would have been obviously, but
okay, all right,
I had to slow down for them. So yeah.
All right. Good to know. Brian, fire away.
Just your experience with your dad, just how did that kind of shape you, and why did that, obviously that's what got you wanting to be part of this cause, right? Can you just kind of tell us sort of your origin story there and in terms of why this issue is so important to you? Sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start, when I was a freshman at Dartmouth, my dad got diagnosed with duodenal cancer, and he wound up having to undergo a Whipple, which is an incredibly intensive and painful procedure. And so, luckily he got to skip the chemotherapy part of it, but at the same time, he still had lasting effects from that incident. And it hit our family really hard, just because no one ever wants to hear the words, your dad has cancer, someone in your family has cancer. And,
right.
So that was incredibly tough. We had to watch him try and recover. It took him multiple months to just be able to get up and walk around our backyard. And even to this day, he still has some complications, but he's doing a lot better and he's cured now. And I just think that incident just kind of sparked something for me. And I feel like anything I can do to help the mission, for Purdue's Cancer Center and raise awareness and do anything that I can do myself to further that cause. I think, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. So that's kind of where that comes from. And, glad I'm a part of it for sure.
Evan, you're blessed in many ways. You're accomplished in your own right and speak for yourself, but you have two parents that are, amazing people, your moms and dad. What was it like for you to see your dad, a very strong person, but be compromised, need help? I mean, that's an experience for a child or a young adult that is different than to see your parents need you to help them.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, I think everyone goes through it, right? Like my dad was like the guy who takes care of everything and, big, strong guy, nothing affects him, had never really had any health problems prior to that. And so to see him, laying in a hospital bed where he's not even allowed to have, ice chips for like 5 days, is really humbling. And it really shows that everything can kind of be taken away in an instant. And so that was really tough. Luckily, like I said, he's great now, and he's cured of the cancer now. But it definitely brings you to the point where you start to appreciate everything more, and you start to realize that every day is really not given to you, and it's not given to everybody. So I try to take advantage of that as much as I can.
When you look back at we'll switch gears a little bit to basketball. Obviously, you're not very far removed, and had a great experience, interesting experience this summer with the men of Mackey. Still love those old. I'm old enough to remember when Purdue wore the gold tops and black bottoms. Jerseys, but really fun experience, and team did really, really well in Columbus. But what was that experience like as a player? Because we're now living, the Purdue men's basketball team and women are going to be going through the same thing to some extent. Football's obviously doing that. You were the first really to prove that this kind of can work. I mean, almost internationally, at least from a United States standpoint, really an amazing experience.
Yeah. And, I think, first of all, TBT did such a great job of providing the infrastructure to let us be successful.
Yeah.
They really, not only did they track us, but they got us tested every day, and they made sure we had strict schedules and things like that. But it was fun. I mean, it's fun anytime you get a group of guys together to play in a tournament like that. Obviously, we had a bunch of Purdue guys, and the Purdue family is so tight that that was a blast, sharing stories and talking about coaches and games and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a challenge, right? Like, especially for college kids, because, they're on campus, and it's so hard to say, you can't go anywhere, right? It's hard to tell them that they have to sit in their rooms all day and not talk to anybody. Yeah. So it's going to be tough. I think they're doing the best they can right now with testing and preseason and all that. I think once they start traveling, it might get a little bit harder. But really, I think a lot of it comes down to discipline for players. And ultimately, if you want to play this year, you're going to have to sacrifice. You're not going to be able to go out to bars after games, after big wins, like when we beat Michigan State every year. You're not going to be able to, enjoy the college experience as much this year. And that's just something that they got to kind of get through and all, sacrifice for.
Yeah. Can you imagine a Big Ten basketball game in Mackey Arena with no fans present?
No, I can't.
Yeah, I can't imagine
either. For all those guys too. I mean, even the scrimmages, we get like 3,000 or 4,000 people. Right. So it's going to be really weird.
Is that going to affect outcomes, you think? Because home court advantages in the Big Ten, probably more so than any conference in the country, matter.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the things about Mackey especially is it gets so loud in there that, I mean, it really messes with the other team. Like, they can't hear their play calls. Even sometimes I couldn't hear our own defensive call outs, right? So it definitely matters, more than people might even think. And, I personally think that we'll be okay just because we're used to kind of trying to tune everything out and just play our game. Because, like you said, other big arenas like Michigan State, like you get even Rutgers, like Wisconsin, those places get loud, right? And so you got to ultimately just focus on yourself. But yeah, I think it's going to definitely affect games this year.
Given, you obviously are intimately involved and know the personnel of who's returning, and got an interesting group of guys. I mean, you're going to have a good basketball team. The question is how good. And of course, Eric Hunter's announcement of his injury is going to make a difference. There's no question about that. But tell me about as you handicap and look at this team, the strengths of what it will bring to the table this year in your view, and what will be some of its challenges as well.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I feel for Eric. I mean, that's, I thought he was really going to have a breakout year and really step in to be that guy for this team. And, so my heart goes out to him, and hopefully he gets better soon. And, that works itself out. but yeah, one thing I'll say, and you know, the fans didn't really get to see it last year because they were redshirted, but the two redshirt guys we have coming back can really play. I mean, they were guys who definitely could have helped us last year. But the fact that they were willing to sacrifice and learn mentally for a year, I think is going to help them tremendously. And then you look at, I mean, I'm not a coach, right? But I would imagine that, you know, Purdue's style of basketball of throwing it inside isn't going to change. And I think that the style of we're going to, you know, defend our butts off and everyone's going to have to struggle for a point is going to be how we win games, right? That being said, like, you know, losing a guy like Eric is so important because not only is he like the engine for the team, but he picks up full court, right? He jams the ball handlers. He does so many things. And, you know, I think some of the newcomers might have to step up and really fill that role, which I have them, you know, I've played with all those guys in open gyms and things like that. And they're more than capable of playing at a high level in Division I. So I think Boiler fans have a lot to look forward to. I think this year has a lot of promise if, you know, hoping that it you know, goes through. And then obviously I think in the coming years, I think there's a lot of excitement around the program.
Yeah.
You mentioned the two red shirts. One of the two I wanted to ask you about, since you probably practiced against him, was Mason. What do you kind of expect from him? I've always kind of wondered if everybody says how hard he plays. I wondered if he maybe couldn't provide a little bit of some of that stuff you provided, that sort of effort-driven, you know, spark, however you want to term it. Just what do you kind of expect from Mason?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think especially as a freshman, I think that's where you kind of find your way onto the floor first, right? Like, right. You know, you need to figure out how you're going to play minutes before you can produce while you're on the court. And I think for him, I think it starts with doing the little things, playing good defense, being in the right spots, getting a bunch of rebounds, right, and being physical. And he has no problem doing that. You know, I think his skill is probably going to come out more this year if he, you know, assuming he gets a little bit extended minutes, because he's a really talented dude. I mean, he's a guy who at 6'5", 6'6" can really, like, you know, do anything on the court. You know, I think really he's got a chance to be really great. But at the same time, he's going to be fighting for minutes with, you know, Aaron and some of those other guys. And, you know, they're really talented guys too. So, yeah, I think it's not a bad problem to have those guys in the front court.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think Mason should do really well. He's got all the talent in the world to do it. So,
you know, when you've had a unique experience, obviously playing for multiple coaches in your college experience, and now you can kind of start to look back at a guy like Matt Painter and that staff. What makes them, you know, look at things from a managerial standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, what makes them truly unique?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had the fortunate, I guess is the right word, opportunity to play for 3 different staffs throughout my college career. And, you know, I obviously had to learn 3 different systems and 3 different cultures, more or less. I think one of the things that they do a great job of at Purdue is, you know, they set a standard and it's really non-negotiable. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to come to a place like Purdue, is because I wanted the whole program to be held up to that high of a standard. And it's either you do your job or you don't play. And it's really that simple. And a lot of coaches will say, you know, they'll say, you know, yeah, if you come in and you do this and that, you'll get on the floor. It's if you come to Purdue and you don't defend and you don't rebound, you do not play. So, you know, it's very simple. They're very honest. You know, there's not a lot of sugarcoating going on there, which I know gets said a lot, but it's true. I mean,
yeah.
As much as you might not want to hear it as a player sometimes, you know, ultimately that's what's the best for you. And I definitely had my ups and downs, but I think ultimately I came out better for it. So I think they do a great job of being honest and setting that high standard. And I think that's why Purdue's been successful for such a long stretch.
Brian, got time for one more, but go ahead.
What are you up to nowadays?
It's a great question. Well, I'm doing work for the Cancer Center. You know, we're kind of starting to turn some things out this year, which I think is going to be exciting. So everybody follow us and keep up with us. But I'm doing that. I'm involved with a Purdue startup called RootShare, started by Chris Hartley, who's a former player. So we're doing some work there, which is exciting. And other than that, I'm probably going to head south for the winter and enjoy some warm weather, and kind of see where it goes from there.
I mean, what if you were going to, and I said only one more question, but 5 to 10 years from now, what is it for you? What do you really want to be, so to speak? I mean, what do you see yourself being?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get into the business world, and you know, I see myself ultimately running a business one day, I hope. I'd love to build things and set things in motion and watch them unfold. And, you know, for me, that's definitely a goal of mine, is to ultimately either own my own business or, you know, eventually become, you know, the top guy. So.
All right. Well, I have little doubt you're going to get there, but hey, thanks so much for your time. We always enjoyed it. And thanks so much for your promotion of the Purdue Challenge 5K, virtual 5K tomorrow. Still, folks, we've had a bunch of signups today. That's a good thing, and we'll look forward to working with you on the Directors Advisory Board too. It's a privilege to be able to do that. Brian, thanks again for your time, and we'll go to segment 3, and Dr. Tim Ratliff, really interesting person. Obviously can talk some sports, but really talks a lot about what the center does. It's pretty amazing, and its role in COVID research as well has been pretty impressive too. So we'll take a 2-minute break and bring Dr. Ratliff in, and we appreciate all that you do, Evan, and again, have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to talking again soon. Take care.
Thank you, guys.